Hi everyone, how are you? So today I have come with another chapter, and today we are going to discuss something interesting which we don't see very often. We get to know them, but yes, we cannot see them. So today's chapter is microorganisms, friends or foe. So these microorganisms, are they our friends or are they our enemies? Let's see, because we'll have an idea why they are called enemies and why they are called friends. So in today's chapter, we are going to discuss from the basic subheadings that are what are microorganisms, the microbes and human beings, their relationships, the harmful organisms, because I mentioned they are foe, that is enemies are there. So the harmful ones which actually affects animals, plants as well as humans, the friendly ones which are friends for us and which helps in different works of being friendly. It helps in preservation of foods, nitrogen fixation, and finally the nitrogen cycle, which is a huge help, or which is a great help for the plants which prepare their own food. Now let's start, or let's see what are we going to learn in this chapter. So the first thing, what are microorganisms? So when we talk about the term, or we tell microorganisms, we can understand that they are micro, means they are very small organisms. So let's see how it has been defined. So they are very small or minute organisms that cannot be seen with the naked eye. There are different types of microorganisms. Some are useful, where some are harmful. So I told you in today's lesson we cannot see them, but yes, we can understand that they exist, because the harmful and the friendly ones tell us that they do exist in nature. And microorganisms can cause various diseases in plants, humans and animals, which is because they are known as our enemies also. So let's see. So these are the types of microorganisms that today we are going to study. The first microorganism is bacteria, which I think all of us know this name of bacteria, followed by fungi, protozoa, algae and virus. Out of all of these, what we are talking of, these microorganisms, this is the only microorganism, algae, which is green in color. And we all know anything green in color related is capable of doing or carrying on photosynthesis. And the last one, that is the virus, is a very typical kind of microorganism, because this microorganism is in the borderline of living and non-living. So why are we calling this in the borderline of living and non-living? We'll see. Let's see what is it. So first we'll start with bacteria. So let's talk about the first microorganism. Those are bacteria. So bacteria, they are mostly unicellular, they are single celled, and they are mostly found in together, that in colonies they exist. And sometimes they are found single also. They have different or varieties of shapes, like that of spherical, which is also known as the corky, the rod-shaped ones, which is called the bacillus, this one which is a rod-shaped one, then the spiral-shaped or spirilla, these are the spirilla ones, and these are the shapes, and examples are E. coli and lactobacillus. With the name we can understand that those are examples of bacteria. So what are they? They are unicellular and they are mostly found in colonies. They have different shapes of spherical, corky. If it is rod shaped, it is known as bacillus, or spiral shaped as spirilla, and examples are E. coli and lactobacillus. Moving on to the next microorganism. So moving on to the next microorganism, that is fungi. So these are multicellular microorganisms. These are microorganisms. We tell these are microorganisms, but these organisms are somewhat not microscopic ones. That is not to be viewed under the microscope. We can see them with the naked eye, but they come under the microorganisms, and they are achlorophylous, that is they don't have chlorophyll, and thus obtain energy from decomposing organic materials. They are mostly saprophytic or parasitic, that is they obtain the nutrition from some decomposing, the dead and decomposing material. It may be a bark of wood, it may be some hay, some straw, it may be some kind of decaying thing, a vegetable matter. It can be of anything that is decomposing, which is already dead. They are saprophytic or parasitic in nature, I just told you, and their walls contain a special thickening structure known as the chitin. Examples is yeast, mushroom and mold. I think most of us have seen them during the rainy season. They keep on growing here and there on the tree trunks near to any places where there is lots of machinery or there is lots of dead and decomposing material. So this is the second microorganism, that is the fungi. The third one is the protozoa. Protozoa, they are also unicellular, and we can understand if they're unicellular, they're always minute in structure. They vary in size and shape. Some are microscopic and some can be seen with the naked eye. And they are free living and heterotrophic. They are free living and heterotrophic. That is not like the fungus that they depend on any dead and decomposed material. They are free living and they can have their own food. They don't depend on others for their food. And examples are amoeba and paramecium. Amoeba and paramecium. You must remember this term heterotrophic. It means that autotrophs are those who can prepare their own food, and we, like humans, we are heterotrophs. That is, we depend on others for their food. But mind you, we are not parasitic or saprophytic. Parasitic or saprophytic means they will be obtaining nutrition from something. Okay, some dead decomposing material. Sometimes it is so, but it is heterotrophic does not mean that they will be obtaining nutrition from some dead or decomposing matter. Examples are amoeba, paramecium. These are very common examples we know of the unicellular ones. Let's move on to the next microorganism, that is algae. I told you this is the only microorganism which is green in color, and so they are able to photosynthesize. So they are autotrophs, that is they create or prepare their own food. So let's see what are the characteristics of the algae. That is, they are eukaryotic and lacks tissue of plant like roots, stems and leaves. Mind you, they are eukaryotic in nature. Eukaryotic means they have advanced cell types, but they are green in color, but they don't have anything like that of the plant, that is the properly differentiated roots, stems and leaves. They are a green mass which is able to photosynthesize, but it is not well differentiated like that in plants. Have chlorophyll, so carry out photosynthesis. I told you, mostly aquatic, although found in soil or trees where sufficient amount of moisture is present. So they are mostly aquatic in nature. It is found in water, but it is also found on land or on trees where sufficient amount of moisture, means it has to be lot of humid, it has to be there, particularly that substrate on where it is growing, it has to have lots of moisture because it needs water. Examples are Spirogyra volvox. So Spirogyra volvox, Ulothrix, Fristrella, Chlamydomonas, volvox, they are all examples of algae which are green in color. And the last we come to type of microorganism is the virus. This is the most dangerous of all the microorganisms. It does not do any good to any living things. It is mostly harmful in nature. So let's see what are the characteristics. They are the borderline between living and the non-living. So they are the borderline. Why it is called that they are the borderline? Because the viruses, when they are in the environment, they behave as they are dead. or they behave as they are in the, so they have no activity when they are outside in the environment. Now when they take entry into any living thing, what happens? It goes and integrates itself within the DNA of that particular living being, and then it becomes alive. It then becomes alive. Before that, it is always in a sleeping mode. It is always in a deactivated mode. It does not do anything. Once it gets into the host body, it integrates itself in the DNA of that host and it becomes alive and then starts causing the disease. It invades the host cell and takes the control and copies the DNA or the RNA, destroying the whole cell. In Latin, it means poison. So we can understand they are always our enemies. They are always our foe. They are not our friends. And they have a special characteristic, that is their borderline between the living and non-living. So these are the characteristics of the microorganisms which we need to remember, because we could be asked questions based on this. Now when we started the chapter, we told they are friends also. So how can we tell that microorganisms are our friends? Let's see how do they help us. So first, they are used in commercial purposes. They are helpful for commercial purposes, for increasing the soil fertility, medicinal use, and finally for the cleansing of the environment. For commercial purposes like preparation of curd, cheese, alcohol, breads, dosa, idli, batter, so many things we see, or so many things that we consume are all fermented, processed, prepared with the help of some kind of bacteria. It is either yeast, lactobacillus, something have been used in order to prepare all these things. Innumerable number of food items are there which are prepared. Then comes increasing the soil fertility. Many bacteria present in the soil helps to increase the soil fertility. It decomposes the soil and increases. Bacteria and fungi help to break down the complex minerals into simple forms, which helps in the particular or increasing the fertility of the soil. Medicinal use, many of them are used in the preparation of medicine, antibacterial drugs. Many of them used in the preparation of vaccines in order to prevent very harsh diseases, like production of vaccine for polio. They are used for the production of antibiotics like streptomycin, antipenicillin, etc. And finally is the cleansing of the environment. Cleansing of the environment by they help in decomposing of the dead and decaying matter. See, the dead and decaying matter, if it did not decompose naturally, it would have been a tremendous task for the humans to keep the environment clean. So there are innumerable ways that these microorganisms are our friends also. So they are known as, called the friends of human beings. Now when I told you foe, they are also our enemies. Now let's see how they act as our enemies. So what do? They actually spread diseases. Now when we talk of diseases, human diseases are of two types, that is communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases. The non-communicable diseases are very peaceful diseases, that is they do not spread from one person to another. They do not affect one person to another. The person which is affected does not affect directly to the other person. Like that of diseases like of heart attack, diabetes, they only remain within the person who is affected. But communicable diseases are those diseases which we must take a lot of care of, because this not only harms us, but also if we are not careful, it can affect another person who is very close to us. So example like influenza, whooping cough, what happens whenever we cough, whenever we come in contact with any other person, they tend to spread from one person to another. So what are the means that the diseases can spread? That is from infected person, through air, water, food, or any physical contact, through insects and animals, and through contaminated food. So it can spread from one person to another through that person itself, through coming in contact with the person, through the food, the air, the water, and also through some insects, animals, and also through contaminated food. Now let's see how does it happen. See, when we talk of physical contact, it is mostly the physical contact. We shake hands, we sit close to each other, we talk to each other. Even that can cause the disease to spread. If we are coughing, we don't cover our mouth, so that droplets, the cough droplets, it goes and mixes with the air, and the same air the other person is also breathing. So what happens? The germs or the organisms or the disease enters that person's body. Next is through insects and animals. A lot of diseases are caused by insects, and the most vulnerable one is mosquito. We all know malaria and dengue. These are the two main diseases caused by mosquitoes. Dengue is caused by the Aedes mosquito, whereas malaria is caused by the female Anopheles mosquito. And animals also spread diseases like that of rabies that comes or that is spreads through dog and monkey bites, rat bite fever that is also spread through mosquito. And finally, through food poisoning, when the food is kept open, the food is not kept properly, not cooked properly, not cleaned properly, so that can cause food poisoning and can lead to lots of problems like that of stomachache, cramps, vomiting, headache, and so on and so forth. So these are mostly that how a disease or a communicable disease exactly it spreads from one person to another. That is droplets, airborne, direct contact, indirect contact, waterborne, foodborne, and vector-borne. Vector-borne means those are carried or those are transmitted from one person to another through insects. That is mosquitoes most preferably. And now we will discuss about the diseases caused by the microorganisms in plants as well as in animals. In animals, it is anthrax caused by bacteria, the foot and mouth disease caused by virus, ringworm by fungi, citrus canker, which is mostly specific for the citrus fruits like orange, lemon, etc., caused by bacteria, rust of wheat by fungi, and yellow vein mosaic virus of lady's finger or okra or bendi, that is again through virus. So these are some of the examples of the disease causing organisms in animals and plants. This needs to be remembered because they might ask you the organism, the host, or the particular microorganism causing the disease, or the name of the disease also, or in which it is caused. Is it in plants or animals? So we have to learn these three of the diseases, their causal organisms, and the name also. So we have talked that food needs to be kept properly in order to avoid contamination. So what are the ways of preservation of food? We have seen that microorganisms can cause the food to get contaminated. So how do we actually preserve them? We can use preservatives like that of oil and vinegar in order to stop the growth of microorganisms, store them in very airtight containers, cold treatment, that is storing in the refrigerator, heat treatment, that is boiling of the thing, and preservation by common salt and sugar, which is very common and has been done in long or olden days in order to preserve many of the food which gets decayed very fast. So we have tried, or we have understood what all is done by the microorganisms, how they affect the human life, or how they affect the growth and development of animals. We have learned about them also individually, how they are, what they do, and what do they look like. Now finally we'll come to another help or friendship that microorganisms have with that of the environment. So in this we will be understanding about how microorganisms help maintain the fertility of the soil, help maintain the nitrogen or a percentage of nitrogen in the atmosphere. That is, it also maintains the atmospheric nitrogen intact. So let's see how they do it. So what happens in this nitrogen cycle? It is the process of fixing the atmospheric nitrogen into the nitrogen which is able or which is in the format which the plants can use. And the process is known as fixing of nitrogen or nitrogen fixing. And this is done by a specific bacteria which is present in the root nodules of the leguminous plants. So this bacteria fixes the atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. And this nitrogen which is fixed, these are used by the other plants which cannot fix nitrogen. So they are used by all the plants, and these plants are also eaten by the animals, the herbivorous animals. Now the excreta of all these animals, along with the death and decay of all these animals, the decomposition of all of them leads to the again decomposition and leading to the formation of nitrogen which gets fixed into the soil. Now the soil has quantity of nitrogen, but the nitrogen we have already taken from the environment needs to be given back to the environment in order to maintain the equilibrium of the air as well as the environment. So what happens, this nitrogen which is there in the soil gets denitrification. The nitrifying bacteria helps in denitrifying bacteria helps the fixed nitrogen or the nitrogen present in the soil in order to convert them again to the nitrogen which is present in the atmosphere, that is N2 format. So what it does, this denitrifying bacteria converts this nitrogen into the nitrogen in the atmosphere. Not only that, even the lightning also does the process of nitrogen fixation, that is, it fixes the atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. So we can see this denitrifying bacteria also has a very important role to play, because this again equilibriums or maintains the balance between the atmospheric nitrogen and the nitrogen which is used by the plants or present in the soil. So this bacteria and this bacteria are of huge importance, or the microorganism. First, it converts the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrogen which is used by the plants, and this bacteria converts the soil nitrogen into the atmospheric nitrogen to maintain the equilibrium of the environment. So this is again a huge help, or this is a boon for maintaining the soil fertility and also the maintaining of the equilibrium of the environment, which is done by these tiny microscopic creatures or the microorganisms. They are really a friend, isn't it? We think it is a foe in many cases, but yes, without these our life would have stopped. So this brings to the ends of the chapter Microorganism, Friends or Foe. If you have liked my video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any queries, please put in the comments box. I will surely get back to you. Till then, stay safe and stay healthy. I'll be coming up with the question answers or the MCQs for this chapter in my next video. Till then, bye and take care.